You know what's coming. I don't know what it is about the glasses. It's just a thing that I've got going on at the moment. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you guys are like, what the hell is wrong with Mr. Benson right now? But yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel for yet another tier list video. The first one went down very well indeed. So I thought, you know what? Let's just read the comments and see what's happening. And the most popular comment was to do a Chelsea tier list of what I think about player performances so far this season. And as well as players, as you can see here from the bottom, if I actually screen record so that you guys know what's going on, I completely forgot to do that there. We've got Frank Lampard in there as well. So as always, on the George Benson Football Channel, I want to ask you to subscribe if you haven't done so already and hit the like button. Today's target, we're going to go with 3,500. You guys have been very good with these whole new like target things that we've been doing. Taking it back to old school YouTube, you got to do it somewhere. What we're going to do is we've got 6 different categories on this tier list video today. We've got elite level, which is like the best performers of the season in terms of standing out in a league of their own. We've got key performers, and these are the guys that have been contributing goals, contributing assists, have been key to what Chelsea have done so far this season to put us into 4th in the Premier League, the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and we're in the last 16 of the Champions League, which I'm just going to hold on to that one because we haven't technically been knocked out by Bayern Munich yet. So, you know, when there's a will, there's a way. Key performers, we've then got exceeded expectations. There's been a lot of young players that Frank Lampard has brought through this season that we may not have expected much from. We may have looked at Chelsea's squad without Eden Hazard, without the ability to spend money last summer. We may have looked at these young players and thought, you know what? A lot of us did this. A mid-table finish might be what we've come to expect, but we know that so many of these players have exceeded those expectations. We then move to a category called on the rise. These are players that may not have played that many minutes this season, but since they have started coming into the team in recent weeks before COVID-19 took over, these are the players that really started to perform, so they're in the on the rise category. We've then got underwhelming. These are the geezers that it's just a bit like, come on mate, you're making a good money, making a good living as a footballer. Why aren't you delivering what we'd expect you to in a Chelsea shirt? And then we've got players who are not going to be part of Frank Lampard's future plans. It's a bit of a harsh category, but with these category videos, there's got to be polarities. There's got to be the best and the worst. And sadly, as the content creator, it's up to me to make the decisions. So as always, let me know what you think of what I've done in the comments down below. What do you agree with? What do you not agree with? So to make life easy for everybody, we have got 25 men in this little box here. For some reason, their foreheads are all cut off. I don't know why that is. Marcus Alonso. We talk about polarities. We talk about players that polarize the Chelsea fan base. Marcus Alonso is arguably the most polarizing of everybody. Everyone either loves him or hates him. One week he's scoring goals against Spurs, then he's getting pointless red cards against Bayern Munich. It's just the nature of Alonso's game. He's a brilliant wing back. He's a pretty average left back. So in terms of what Alonso has done for Chelsea this season, as I said, there's been ups, there's been downs, but towards the end, before COVID-19 came in, I'd go as far as to say that Marcus Alonso was one of the players on the rise. He scored a few goals, he was putting in good performances, even playing in a flat back 4. So I wouldn't say that he exceeded expectations because I'd love to see Alonso banging in free kicks every single week, but he doesn't always play. So I'm putting him in on the rise. And then we've got Azpilicueta. A lot of people have said on the George Benson Football Channel that I don't give Azpi anywhere near enough credit or respect that he would deserve. One thing that we've really got to remember this season is with so many young players coming through, a lot of what we don't see on the football field is going to be key to these players turning up and performing. Yes, Chelsea's academy is brilliant. We've had an influx of great quality players that have broken into the first team, but we cannot underestimate what goes on behind closed doors with the experienced players that have been first team players at Chelsea for many years and the influence that these guys have on the young players. As well as that, we have seen some huge performances from Azpilicueta, particularly in the Champions League this season, and I think he's actually been all round one of our best defenders. So I'm going to stick Azpi in the key performers list. A lot of what we've discussed on this channel this season regarding Azpilicueta has been how the baton's going to be passed to Reece James in the right back position. But speaking objectively from what we've seen, or subjectively too, but looking at the stats, Azpi's had another good season and I think he's been a key defensive performer for Chelsea. Moving in to the Bs, it's Batshuayi, and it's somebody who I've wanted him to succeed. I've always wanted Michy Batshuayi to succeed. There's been huge moments when he's been given chances, such as the winner away at Ajax. Does Frank Lampard trust him is the big question. And this is the difference between, at the moment, whether I put him in the not part of the future plans category or anywhere else. I wouldn't say Batshuayi's on the rise. He's not been elite. He's not been a key performer. And in terms of expectations, I need him to do more when he's on the pitch. And it's something that is frustrating because he can finish. There is flashes of brilliance. The goal against United in the Carabao Cup was beautiful. I don't know if Batshuayi is going to be given any more chances at Chelsea. So the question for me is, it's either underwhelming or not part of the future plans. If Chelsea are going to be linked with another striker, Olivier Giroud's just signed a new deal. We've seen Broja come into first team training as well. It tells me that Batshuayi is not going to be part of Frank Lampard's future plans. So sadly, I've had to stick him in the bottom tier of this tier list. And we move in to Willy Caballero. We've got a couple of C's in here. Willy Caballero. I mean, expectations when you lose your first choice goalkeeper, or when your first choice goalkeeper is dropped. You expect the man to replace him to not be as good, particularly when you spent so much money on a goalkeeper such as Kepa Arrizabalaga. Caballero came in, kept clean sheet at home to Spurs, so I'm actually going to say that Caballero's exceeded my expectations this season. Unless there's an injury to your first choice goalkeeper, you don't expect to see your second choice keeper in many, if any, of the big games. So I'm going to say that Caballero has actually done very well when he's come into the team. We move into Callum Hudson-Odoi. Now, Hudson-Odoi has had a huge injury, which made him miss the start of the season. When he came back, we saw him score on his first game back at home to Grimsby. I mean, everyone flipping scored against Grimsby. Hudson-Odoi this season, there's been a lot of questions asked of him. We've not seen him play anywhere near as many minutes as we would have liked to. I don't feel as though Callum Hudson-Odoi this season has been at a level that we thought he might be. But we've also got to bear in mind that that injury is something that we knew was going to be playing with Callum Hudson-Odoi's quality this season. This isn't me doubting his potential. This isn't me saying that Hudson-Odoi is done at Chelsea, but I think the impact that he's had this season has been slightly underwhelming compared to what I thought it could be. Even though that injury is obviously still the key thing to think about, Hudson-Odoi goes in to the underwhelming category. We have then got Andreas Christensen, who I actually feel has been one of our best centre-backs before the coronavirus took our Chelsea away from us. So I'm going to stick Christensen in on the rise. I think that we've known for so long, and we bring it back to the praise that John Terry has given Christensen over the years, saying that he will be potentially a future Chelsea captain. I don't know if I'm going to quote Terry as saying that, but I believe he said something along those lines. Christensen, before the coronavirus came in, I thought was looking like our best defender, so I've stuck him in the on the rise category. Now the next man is Emerson, and Emerson has been very unlucky this season. We saw him start the season very well, and we thought that the player that we bought in from Serie A was finally going to show why we bought him in the first place. And Emerson had a good start to the season. Injuries took over, and then we didn't see anywhere near the same level of Emerson that we saw at the start of the season throughout the rest of the campaign. There's definitely elements of Emerson's game that are decent, and he's a good quality left back, but he's not at the level, and this is why we've made so many videos on this, and Chelsea have been linked with Alex Telles. We're now heavily linked with Tagliafico. We addressed that in yesterday's video, and I think the reason for that is because Frank doesn't believe that Emerson is of the right quality and the right mould of a left back for what he wants to achieve here at Chelsea and what he wants to do and the way he wants to play. So I'm going to go as far as to say that Emerson has been slightly underwhelming. Considering that start of the season, he's never really been able to recreate that early season form and cement his place in the team because Alonso has been on the rise. So you can see how this all works out. Emerson goes into the underwhelming category for me. I think a lot of people might disagree with that one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now the next player. I miss him as a player, but I love him as a manager too. Let's talk about Super Frank, shall we? It's Chelsea players tier list, but in my mind, Frank is still a player, and he has been like a big player if we look at the whole game of football. For Chelsea this season, we have seen moments of tactical naivety from Frank earlier in the season. We've seen moments of tactical brilliance from Frank Lampard, particularly those away games that we remember away at Spurs and away at Arsenal, those very sweet victories that we took away from North London. Considering it is only Frank's second season as a football manager. He's come into the Premier League. He's got his dream job pretty much straight off the bat. He's had like a little internship at Derby, which was relatively successful as well, getting to a playoff final. And then he goes on and manages Chelsea Football Club. Some people have said that Frank has been too naive at times this season. I would go as far as to agree with that to some extent. But considering what he's done with the players that he's had, the fact that we have seen finally so many players step up into the Chelsea first team from the academy that's been talked about so much, but we've never seen it. We've never seen the fruits of that labour in the first team. For that very reason, the fact we're sat there in fourth in an FA Cup quarter-final, beating Liverpool in the last 16, Frank goes into elite level for me. I know a lot of people are going to have varying different thoughts about that, but I think as a Chelsea fan, you've got to celebrate what Frank has done to this very point. We're in the top four. That is exceeding expectations in itself. Yeah, all right, Bayern Munich are knocking us out of the Champions League. Whatever. No one expects anyone to beat Bayern. They're the best team in Europe at this point. Maybe Liverpool as well. Conversation for another day. FA Cup, we're still doing all right in that. I think Frank has been absolutely fantastic. So we move into the next player. We've got Billy G. We've got Billy Gilmour, the Scottish Messi, the GOAT, whatever you want to call him. He's got plenty of nicknames. Maestro. Billy Gilmour has had a breakthrough couple of weeks before the coronavirus came in. So for that reason, on the rise, I mean, we could put him in fact, I'd go as far as to say he's exceeded expectations. I don't think that I didn't expect much of Billy Gilmour when he came into the team. I knew that he had a lot of ability, but my biggest issue was that he was going to be too lightweight for the Premier League. I didn't think he'd be able to get a hold of the game and control it the way that he has. And for an 18-year-old, it exceeds anything that I expected of him. And I think that even though obviously Jody Morris and Joe and Frank and everybody backed Billy, for me, I was a bit worried. I'm not going to lie. So going to stick him in the exceeded expectations. He's not been a key performer because he's not played enough minutes for me to be able to warrant that. He's on the rise and he has exceeded my expectations, and I think it won't be long until Billy is up in the elite level and the key performers tier. So we move into Olivier Giroud. Now, Olivier Giroud last season in the Europa League. By the way, yesterday was the anniversary of that brilliant Baku day. Chelsea 4, Arsenal 1. Olivier Giroud opens the scoring. He's just signed a new deal. We've seen him come into quite a bit of good form before the coronavirus with Tammy Abraham's injury. I think that we know that we can still expect something from Olivier Giroud. The man has got the best heel in football, as I like to say. I'm going to stick him in the on-the-rise category. I think the expectations of Giroud as a World Cup winner, we would like to see him score more Premier League goals when he's given the opportunities, but we know what his role is. He's brilliant at holding up the ball. He's a great player to have as a professional around the dressing room. And I think Giroud's done all right. The next player that we're going to look at is Jorginho. Jorginho was a player who, in his first season under Maurizio Sarri, Chelsea fans expected a lot. A lot of Chelsea fans didn't quite see, myself included, humble pie. Nice little slice, or I'll just actually supplement it with a glass of water instead. I do speak quite fast, don't I? Jorginho is a player who the fan base wasn't entirely sure about. This season, we've seen him score some big penalties, which is one thing that we know from Jorginho's game. We've also seen him take up the role of a leader on the pitch. If Azpilicueta's not playing, Jorginho's the vice captain. He brings on and puts on that armband, and we know that he puts everything on the line. He leaves his heart and soul on the pitch. So for me, Jorginho, even though he's had some very good games and some not so good games, his influence on the rest of this Chelsea squad cannot be left to the side to not consider. So Jorginho goes into the key performers list from me. We've needed leaders this season with such a young team, and I think Jorginho has been very, very good indeed. N'Golo Kante. Kante's performances this season, in the general consensus of what we've expected from N'Golo Kante in his career in English football and his career as a footballer, N'Golo Kante is an elite level player. This season, we have not necessarily seen elite level performances from Kante on a consistent basis because he's not been having the time to recover from injuries. There's been some times where Kante's played where I think Frank's made the wrong decision based off of Kante's overall recovery. We saw him pick up the injury before the Europa League final that was then escalated by playing the Europa League final against Arsenal, and I'm sure Kante wouldn't have wanted it any other way. In terms of what the expectations are of Kante, he certainly hasn't exceeded the expectations. There's been games where he's been the best player on the pitch. Oh, this is a tough one. This is the hardest one of them all, in my opinion. N'Golo Kante, where do I put him? Some people would say compared to his own standards, he's been underwhelming. I'm gonna stick Kante in underwhelming only because I know how good he is. It's not because I don't like him. It's not because I don't want him at Chelsea anymore. Some people think that if people don't rate Kante for what he's done this season, we don't rate him at all. That's not the case. Kante's had some big moments this season. He scored a great goal against Liverpool. We lost the game. Scored a big opening goal away at City. Kante's had some great moments, and we've seen him progress in that attacking style of his game that we weren't necessarily as aware of previously. I know that there's so much more to come when he's fully fit. So we're sticking him in underwhelming. And then we've got Kepa, again, another player who's not necessarily had the best season. I think this one has got to be underwhelming. There have been some brilliant moments. We've got the games against Liverpool in the FA Cup, Super Cup game against Liverpool. There's been big saves. We've seen sparks of what Kepa can do, but I'm putting him in the underwhelming category because I think even he would admit that we all expect more from him. And I think I've spelled underwhelming wrong, and I've only just realised. Wait, am I being stupid here? How do you spell underwhelming? Bloody hell, I missed the H. So we move into Matteo Kovacic, and I think that it's pretty much unquestionable this season that Matteo Kovacic has had a huge breakthrough season at Chelsea. He's exceeded the expectations of the majority of the fan base, who saw him as a £40 million player who, you know, he had a loan spell last season. It was kind of indifferent. There were moments of brilliance, moments where it was a bit like, is it worth the 40 million investment? It's been worth double that 40 million investment. There's no doubt in my mind Matteo Kovacic belongs in the elite level of Chelsea players so far this season. He's been the best player that we've got. There's obviously been players that have scored more goals than him, but Kovacic is starting to add that different dynamic attacking element to his game that we didn't see at all last season under Maurizio Sarri. Kovacic has been elite. We move in to Mason Mount. Now, Mason Mount's first season in the Premier League, his first season in a Chelsea shirt, he gets a Premier League Stamford Bridge debut goal against Leicester. Mason Mount has been absolutely fantastic. He's contributed with goals and assists. He brings the energy to the Chelsea team. He brings the press. And I think that Mason Mount has undeniably been a key performer this season for Chelsea. I think that in terms of what he's going to do in the future, he's only going to get better. There have been some people that think he doesn't do enough. Some people think he's too lightweight. It's the same with anything in football. You're never going to please everybody. But I think that what we've seen objectively from the stats from Mount this season is a brilliant return for his first breakthrough year in the Chelsea side in the Premier League. He goes to the key performers tier. So the next player that we're going to talk about is Pedro. Now I'm going to stick Pedro in the on the rise category alongside Olivier Giroud, an experienced player who, when called upon towards the end of the season as we knew it, and obviously the season's not finished yet, but you guys know what I mean. I don't want to say the C word again. Pedro was putting in some good performances. I think there's been times where we can clearly see that he might not be at the level that he once was a couple of seasons ago, particularly the Conte title-winning season. Pedro still gives absolutely everything, which of a player of his kind of ability and his age, he's not that old, he's only 32. That's all you can ask for from a player like Pedro. He's got that experience. We know that he's won everything there is to win in football. He's a great influence on the younger players. He loves playing for Chelsea. And I actually think that towards the end, before the C word came in, Pedro was doing all right. Christian Pulisic. Now, for me, I certainly think that there's only two options for Pulisic in this one. In terms of expectations, when a player comes in for the fee that he came in for, there's obviously going to be expectations. So there's no doubt that Pulisic has actually exceeded what I expected of him. I thought it was going to take him a lot longer to settle into the Premier League. We saw that incredible hat-trick at Turf Moor away at Burnley, which was the first time that we really saw Christian Pulisic running the entire show for Chelsea. Since then, he's looked more than at home in a Chelsea shirt and in the Premier League. The pace of it, in terms of his physicality, there were times earlier in the season where I looked at Pulisic and I thought, mate, you're going to have to get up. The players are going to come at you. Defenders and midfielders are going to come and crunch you in this league. And you've got to get used to that if you want to be a regular in this Chelsea first team. Christian Pulisic got the bit between his teeth and he went for it. And I think I would go as far as to say that from what we saw of Pulisic before his injury, we were starting to see a player that was about to hit the elite heights that we may have expected or didn't expect, whatever it may be. So for that reason, I'm going to stick Christian Pulisic in the key performers level, almost in the elite. I think, I kind of want to change it now. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Pulisic definitely almost deserves the elite level. Gonna stick him in the key performers for now. So the next player that we're going to talk about is Reece James. Now, I've talked about Reece James countless times here on the channel. You guys know, of all of the young players in terms of what I think is going to happen for their careers, I think Reece James is going to go the furthest out of all of these young academy players graduating through into the Chelsea first team this season. In terms of being a key performer, I think that there have been elements of Reece James's defensive game that have let him down. And I'm going to come back down to like a level of reality here. We've seen some huge performances from Reece James this season. We have seen his quality on show in abundance. I think he needed to have a little bit more maturity in his performance levels. So Reece James, I want to stick him in the key performers, but I think in order to tame my own expectations of Reece, I'm just going to say that for now, he's exceeded my expectations. And it's nothing for like the aesthetic of this tier list so that there's not too many key performers, because you've got to narrow the key performers down as much as you possibly can. I've said some great things about Reece this season, but I know that he's going to get better. And I really think and I hope that over this like quarantine period and everything, he's been looking at elements of his game defensively that he can improve on. We know he's big, we know he's strong. Positionally though, he must improve. I forgot, I shouldn't have put Ruben in. This should have been a 24-man tier list. Ruben's not played. The next player we're going to take a look at is Ross Barkley. Many people have said that one of the best players that Chelsea had before the C word came in. We saw him put in a very good performance against Everton, got the goal against Liverpool as well, which was a fantastic goal to send Chelsea into the quarterfinals. Ross, I expected more of him throughout the entire season when he's been given the chance. I don't think he's taken it every single time he's been given it. So Ross Barkley goes into on the rise. There is a lot of talks about Chelsea still potentially bringing in players in Ross's position. There's been interest from Newcastle, interest from West Ham. Whether he'll be a Chelsea player come the start of next season, we'll have to see. But Ross Barkley's performances, we can't underestimate him. I think he'll still have a big part to play in the rest of this season. So the next player that we're going to take a look at is Tony Rudiger. Now, one of the games before football was taken away from us was that game against Leicester where Rudiger scored twice to get Chelsea a 2-2 draw. Lots of people have split opinions about Chelsea centre-backs. I think that with the four that we have, it's so difficult to say who's the best. It's so difficult to say who the team should be built around. Rudiger is a leader. He is a character in the dressing room. He is somebody who clearly wants to win every time he steps out on the pitch. I don't think there's any Chelsea players who don't want to win, but you can see the passion and the determination to get behind his teammates from Rudiger, which I think is a key thing for any centre-back. The only thing that I'm worried about with Rudiger is not only injuries, but whether or not he's actually got good enough ability to lead the Chelsea back line. I expected big things from Rudiger this season. I wouldn't say he's exceeded my expectations, but using that game against Leicester and a couple of other good performances in there as well, I'd say that Rudiger's on the rise. And I think that with the whole Chelsea centre-back situation, I've said countless times I really want to see us sign another centre-back, a leader. Rudiger's going to have to take the opportunity because otherwise he might see himself frozen out of the team. So the next player that we're going to take a look at is Tammy Abraham. 13 Premier League goals this season. Yes, there's still 9 games to go, so that 20 goal mark could potentially be hit from Tammy. He hit the ground running. He was absolutely brilliant in the early stages of the season. There were then times where he looked as though he'd lost it a little bit. He'd lost his way. I think for what we've seen of Tammy in his first full Premier League season, he's got more than enough potential to be an elite marksman in the Premier League. I think that considering he's got 13 goals in his first full season, I'm going to stick Tammy in the elite level. I think that in terms of the goals that he's scored, he's definitely been a key performer for Chelsea this season because he's our top scorer. But from what we've seen of his game, I think that he's way exceeded my expectations, and we can't underestimate the influence he's had with the goals that he's scored for this team. So I'm sticking Tammy in elite. The next player is Fikayo Tomori. And I think that Tomori, again, is another one who's exceeded expectations. There's not really been any centre-backs this season who has really taken over the mantle of being the leader in that centre-back role for Chelsea. So I don't think any of the centre-backs have necessarily been key performers. But Tomori, there's been times this season where we have seen that we have got a real top quality centre-back. And I think whoever does come in, if anyone, in the centre-back position for Chelsea, Tomori is probably the front runner as to who the centre-back partnership is going to be built around. So Tomori's been absolutely excellent. We move in to Willian, who, again, I don't think we can underestimate what he's done this season for Chelsea. There's not been an abundance of goals and assists from Willian. I think he's got 5 goals, 5 assists. It's not his best figures ever, But yet again, Willian turned up in the big matches. And I think that when we look at the key performers, we're looking for experience. We're looking for players who are going to give everything, whether it is what we would expect from Willian. I think we've always expected more in terms of goals and assists, but I think Willian's performances this season have actually been very good. Frank's always relied on him. He's always called upon him. So Willian goes into the key performers. And the final one that we're going to talk about today is Kurt Zouma. Zouma, I personally expected a lot more from Zouma. There's been games this season where he's looked really good. Then there's been other games where I'm like, he's just not as good as we need him to be and that we want him to be. He had that loan move last season at Everton, which things looked good. He came back to Chelsea, didn't have the first best Premier League game this season against United. We all know that. He had a red box in the 6 things that we learnt. Kurt Zouma, I personally expected more. There has been good performances, but this is a tough one as well. This is one of the toughest ones because my expectations of Zouma were that he was going to lead Chelsea's back line this season, and he hasn't done that because he's not been able to maintain his place throughout the whole season. I'm going to say that Zouma's been underwhelming for me compared to what I thought he was going to be. So I didn't realise, but the camera just died as we put Zouma into the underwhelming category. But fortunately, it finishes off this Chelsea tier list video from performances from both players and the manager so far this season. There is going to be some in there that you might disagree with. Maybe I've been a bit harsh. Maybe Pulisic could have made it to elite level. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Obviously, with all these videos, it's up for interpretation. It's a subjective thing. So let me know if you agree with what I've done. And if you don't agree with it, let me know what players you'd have moved and why you'd have moved them so we can get a better idea as to how we're all feeling about the Chelsea performances so far this season. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like on it. The target is 3,500 likes. I'm sure you guys can hit it. Subscribe to the George Benson Football channel if you're new around here and haven't already. I expect to see you tomorrow for another video. See you all later. Bye-bye.